doesn't work that way, but my own personal current state of understanding. And I'm gonna, and things that I'm very solid on, I'm gonna state quite emphatically. Which just you could just assume that that means that you know I'm fairly certain that it's true because of my own personal perceptions and awareness and knowledge. Doesn't mean it's absolutely true. I always accept that. I could be wrong. I could be, my understanding is not complete. That's a priori as far as I'm concerned. And other things, if it's particularly speculative, I'll make sure to state that this is a out there idea, because I find that does help. You really have to, when you're discussing stuff like this, I find it's very good practice to constantly be sort of like, well, I'm pretty sure of this, not so sure of this. This is a wild ass idea, And the thing is, you got to be able to go out into the more speculative areas, because if you don't, you just end up retreading the same old stuff. And what's cool is over the years, well, we've made a lot of progress. That's the cool thing. Chris and I mostly. We've gone from having a very superficial understanding of the esoteric, and we've cracked a lot of things. So there's a lot of things that we used to are just like, what the hell is this? What is this crazy? Like, is this complete nonsense, or is there anything to this? And over the years, we've managed to separate a lot of that out and go, okay, well, this pretty much is nonsense. This is a perceptual error. This is a common way of mislabeling things, which totally messes up the data. And other things we found, and a lot of it's, very bizarre stuff. We found out, wow, that's completely 100% true, bizarre as it is. And some of that's based on personal experience, so it's pretty much impossible to. Well, that's another thing. That's another topic right there, actually. See, again, there's a million topics. So yeah, I'm just gonna ramble on about different things here. Ghosts. I'll get back to ghosts, but this is kind of the preamble, I guess. Maybe I'll record this. I'll change the title of this segment and call it maybe esoteric preamble or something. Who knows? That's interesting. I mean, I find our whole history very fascinating. Again, I remember all of the different signposts of awareness from, again, like, unlike most people, most of my friends, the more aware friends I have, I don't know if this is an interesting signifier, but we actually remember we remember all the way back to when we were kids, and we remember how we thought, and we remember what happened. Where most people, it's bizarre. It's like they just, I don't know, they just forget all that stuff. I think also they don't pay attention to their own awareness, so they're not aware of how they thought as kids. But I actually remember my awareness changing. I remember how I used to think, and then how I'd think as a teenager, and then how I'd think, in my 20s. And then, it's interesting because it has changed considerably, but it's also a subtle change. I mean, I mostly think the same way. It's just that there's a lot of increased depth. Oh, look at that. Almost, we're already past 10 minutes. Like I said, you can't do anything in 10 minutes. Actually, I realize that's partially why I had no energy. It's an interesting thing, actually. It's sort of, again, another subtopic. Things, when you start out, just for example, if I decide that I'm only going to talk for 10 minutes and I'm going to try to be particularly coherent, I've essentially put a maximum cap on the amount of energy that I am going to use without even. But it's a bit paradoxical. Like, you could say, well, no, you could pump a lot more energy into that 10 minutes. No, not really, because I've already mentally gone, okay, 10 minutes goes by fast, da-da-da-da. All my pre-setup has actually determined the energy level for what's going to happen in that 10 minutes. It doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't make sense on a see, this is kind of a key concept. This will come up over and over and over when I discuss this kind of thing. Actually, it's interesting. It's temporal resonation. It's when you do things in the present, your awareness about things like time and energy and whatnot they have a sort of an indirect effect. It's like a time loop. You know, your awareness. If you, it's like, you know, hope. If you have hope for tomorrow, that's something that technically doesn't even exist, and it could even be false. You know, you think that tomorrow is going to be totally awesome because whatever reason, you know, because a gypsy told you so, and therefore you have a lot of positive energy now. And that positive energy is real, even though the thing that you're talking about in the future may be potentially even bunk, you know, and so on. Like, yeah, it's difficult to think about this kind of stuff because it literally goes into dimensions, like ghosts. Again, we'll get back to that. That kind of thing. It's all dimensional. Like that is the core, actually, of the paranormal, as my fellow researchers and I have come to understand it, is that it's all about dimensions. And I've actually, you know, I have some understanding of it now on my own, in my own personal theory, by which I mean I'm not, you know, referencing someone else and going, hold on, sorry, just my screen cut out for a second there. I find this again. It's another thing. It's like I don't really hold with. I like to acknowledge what, you know, other people's ideas and where other people's ideas come from, and you know that all contributes to my own understanding. But I've got a very asymmetrical way of doing that. I found you just have to let your thoughts kind of congeal into their natural form. You know. Anyway, boy, I'm really going all over the place. But you know, again, I feel more comfortable. Well, let's just talk about ghosts for a bit, I guess then. See, this is sort of the canned section. I have to let myself be inspired. It's a little difficult to be inspired when you're being recorded. I guess it's because you feel a little more fixed in time or something like that. Here, let me reach into the ether for a second. Ghosts. Huh. Okay, there we are. All right. Oh, I see. Oh, okay. I see the problem. The problem is I'm not. This is what I'm talking about. I was talking about a minute ago. I find when I try to think about, you know, how do other people think about this? I mean, I can do that, but it's static. It's more like I can ask myself the question, okay, how does Joe Blow think about ghosts? Okay, boom, that, you know, that pops up in my head. Blah, that's fine. But it doesn't help me, you know, go along. If I'm thinking about ghosts, I just access my entire theoretical mass of information, which I'll just, you know, boom, I have access to it. And, you know, I'm thinking about whatever little point. I think actually that's an interesting esoteric point as well. I don't know if everybody does this. I think they do, actually, even if they don't realize it. But you can only think about and you can only deal with things in terms of your current energy level. If you don't have enough energy, you literally cannot address certain things. Like, or you can address a small part of it. And what I was going to say is, I've sort of over the years I've developed the ability. That's why I kind of ramble a little bit. It seems like is I've developed the ability to address things in tiny little chunks that are connected together. But I basically save energy by not looking at how they're connected and not worrying about it. I just kind of focus on what I'm focused on, and I follow that strand of the web. But again, I'm trying to adapt that to you know, this format, which is a little hard. But I'm basically going, come on, keep it compact. You know, we don't have all day here. And my brain goes, I don't usually do things that way. And then I go, and you get silence for a bit here. Again, much easier. Maybe I can do it that way. I'll think of how I would talk about this if I was talking with Chris. Actually, yeah, it's not a bad idea. Okay, yeah, no, that's helping a bit. Again, see, that's the thing. They're all connected. All right. Well, most people have various stupid ideas about ghosts. We saw a scientific special on a really haunted prison, and it was extraordinarily terrible. It also included the current favorite